Hello, everyone. Welcome to Heaven on Earth. I am Joyful Star. It is way early in the morning, like 1 o'clock in the morning, but I felt like having a chat and I'm going to start going live a lot more often. So, I talk to God, and that's not something I just started doing overnight. And I do talk to the God that is in the Bible, but that's not the most accurate information on the planet anymore. So we'll honor the Bible for all that it is and all that it was always meant to be. Um, and talk about the real truths and real God that is a God for everyone. Okay. Because it's creator, it's source, it's literally just home. Okay. It's home. It's where we all came from. It's where everything came from and where everything returns. Okay. It is where everything came from. It's what's on the other side of the Big Bang. Okay. And I have the 7 sacred stories that explain who heaven is, how heaven is, what heaven is, how they came to start creating in this physical reality, and how they do it, and what are the real rules to return. Okay. And some of it does mirror and correspond and include the Bible and specifically Jesus Christ, because I can explain Jesus Christ mathematically as well as tell you he is our Lord and our Savior and our brother, and he loves every one of us, and explain his teachings better than that book. So come along with me on this little ride. Okay. I haven't had anyone showing up in my live chats, but it would be wonderful if some people joined me tonight, and we could have a real conversation. So what I wanted to talk about tonight is how I started talking to the heavens, and they started talking back. Okay. I was 49 years old. I'd already been through religious training, 4 years of seminary in my high school days. I'd given up on the Christian religions, not necessarily Jesus Christ, but the religions on this planet. I had done some nature stuff, some sweat lodges. I had gone to Peru and done ceremony there, and had begun remembering some past lives. I wasn't actually believing 100% in past lives, but I was starting to believe that I would read things in history and just feel like I know that truth. I lived in that time. I remember how that felt and what that was like. And I didn't really have any specific spiritual or religious beliefs at that time. I was working part-time and raising my daughter, and I was single by choice. I knew that I just kept having bad relationship after bad relationship after bad relationship. And I was like, it's just not working out for me. And I'm not going to put my daughter through this. And I just wouldn't do it anymore, and began working on myself. And I had been reading books on weight loss and self-development and starting my own business, and some books on personal growth and spirituality and beliefs about who we are and why we're here. And I had an experience that changed my life forever. I walked out of the bathroom at 4 o'clock in the morning. And those of us with 50-year-old bladders know what I was doing there. And I was suddenly no longer human. I was a light being. My eyes couldn't even look at my body because there was just so much light, like literally just radiating off everything. But I kind of looked down and could see that there was light coming off my hands. And I was like so slow-mo. I lifted my hand up towards my face, and there was light shooting a good, if this was the end of my hand, there was light shooting more than 1.5 feet off of it towards the ceiling. And I like brought my hand up and was just staring at it. I couldn't believe that that was my hand, because light was shooting more than 1 foot off the ends of my hands. And I really kind of tried to look more down at my body, but it was just this glowing. I mean, the light was just so bright. And I thought, what do I look like in the mirror? And I turned to look at the wall, because there was a mirror hanging right there. And the wall was all light blocks and light in the room. And that set me off on a path, because I knew one thing for a fact. I was a light being in a body. And that started the whole problem. Okay. And I started meditating and talking to guides, and being aware of myself and the support system here, and how things worked better when you're aware of it. And knowing I was a light being in a body, I had less hesitation and reservation talking to light beings that aren't in bodies. It just seemed normal to me. And talking to the trees, and talking to the world, and talking to people's higher selves when they don't know it. Like, they're just sitting there eating whatever, and you're like talking to the parts of them that are attached that they don't know and talk to. I don't know. I didn't come with an instruction manual. All I knew is one thing: I was a light being in a body. And so I started meditating, and I started remembering lots of past lives on this planet, past lives on others. I got sent some amazing books with amazing knowledge in them. And I kept searching. I wanted to know it all. I remembered lives on planets from galaxies that have been destroyed by now. And I don't know that I worked my way back to heaven exactly. But I worked my way back. to home. And was talking to God. I didn't even know it. I didn't really realize that's who exactly I was talking to. Some beings are in our realm, and it's just like sitting and talking to a friend. The first time I talked to the being as Jesus Christ, I felt like he just touched me with a finger. He was so not what I expected. These human avatars are so small. We really are so small. And this universe is really so large. And I thought I could never understand it all. But I wanted, and I kept waiting because I kept getting more knowledge and more knowledge and more knowledge and more knowledge. I kept waiting until the point where I could explain everything and anything to anyone. I wanted all the answers. And I remember talking to a guy one day and I'm like, can't you just download it all into me at once? And he's like, yeah, but that would kill you and kind of negate the purpose. So let's not do that. I was like, okay, it's just I at one point spent so much time in heaven one particular day meditating. I got so far out of my body. And when I got back in, it felt like I was being encapsulated in a coffin just to get him back in my body and open my eyes again. And my legs were asleep. Oh gosh, I hurt so bad. It hurt so bad to get back in my body. And I cried. I cried. And I asked Daddy to never let me get that far out of my body again because it hurt. It hurt to get back in my body. I didn't want to. But I knew I had a mission and really important things that I had to do on this planet. And all this knowledge I had to go teach people. And, you know, it was a beautiful thing. And it was a special gift in a very beautiful way that I knew that this body, when it's time to let it go, you know, these bodies are shells to us. It is really like getting inside of a car. It's a one-car ride. You don't want to lose your car, but these bodies are not us. And these bodies do not define our sex. And who we are sexually. And that's a whole nother conversation talking about trans and gays. And I mean, it's mathematical to God. There's a recipe. There's a formula for that. There's an equation for everything. Okay, that cat is an equation. If you see the world like God sees it, it's something that looks more like the Matrix. He looks down at us. He does not see us the way we see us. God sees us as light beings with a shell over our heads. Okay, much more like ghosts in Halloween, running around with a shell over us, our light. That's how God sees us. And what codes on us. He knows what color we are and everything about us by the code in our energy field. Right. I got one cat sleeping on the bed up there, one cat sleeping down here. I just had to rearrange for a minute because this is one of the first lessons Because God did not start with the math. The math came way the fuck later. Okay, first I figured out how to get into heaven. Then I figured out how to talk to people there. But I had learned a lot on the way because it's all telepathic. Nobody speaks English. I'm sorry. It's funny to God that we think he's an old man with a beard and he speaks English. And we live in houses with white picket fences. That's what a lot of, I would say, Americans think heaven is. It's funny. I think it's funny. I think everything is funny, guys. Okay. So if you think God is this really strict old man, I mean, yeah, heaven is perfect and you can't have any fuck ups there. So on one hand, heaven is what heaven is. And on the other hand, um, once you know the rules, I mean, everything goes back. It's not a matter of if you go back, it's a matter of what you go back as and how long it takes you. And how many awards and treasures you store in heaven in the meantime. So, here's the thing. Early on, when I got to heaven, I was like, oh my God, it's so beautiful. It's just love and peace. Oh, you just want to lay and be in heaven forever. You don't want to get out of your body and move anymore. And I have moments like that, like, fuck this shit. Being in a body sucks. I'm ready to come home now. Daddy, like, you got important work to do. Stop it. But I started asking them, if this is heaven, why the hell do you fucks create the physical? And yes, you can swear in heaven. It's a thing. They let me get away with it. They kind of put a bubble around me so that only the people that want to hear me, and everybody else is shielded. It's funny. Anyway, so we were in heaven, and I'm like, how did you people start creating in the physical? Because I don't understand. This is perfection. Why would you do the opposite of it? Now, at that point, I'd already knew the rules of heaven as far as I understood love and above, and that it was a liquid reality where everything manifested instantly. And you know what it's kind of like, the basic human conceptual understandings of what it was like there, what living there is like, and what God is. So I already knew the basics. Okay. I knew that heaven was a liquid reality, a high energy realm where everything manifested instantly. I understood that it's not about being good or bad in a human concept of like following a list of rules exactly, as much as it was being a being fully in alignment with heaven and the laws and the rules and the understandings, and being a trained mind. And I had already understood that in order to grow a God consciousness, like, you need 1,000,000 gallons of water and you're growing that shit 2 cups at a time. Takes a while. I actually did not understand their previous ways at that point. I learned some of the stories kind of out of order. Um, but I'm like, yo, this place is perfect. Why are we like being in physical? Why do y'all do this? To my human mind, I could not conceive why a place of perfection would create a place of such imperfection, in my human opinion, right? God thinks everything is perfect. Just ask him. He'll explain it to you. I'm laughing because it's funny to God. And he'll start trying to explain it to me. And I'm like, no. I don't want it. Just. And this is one of the first stories they told me. They told me 2 stories. First of all, you have to understand that we humans think our reality is what's solid and real. We think this physical realm and these bodies is what's real. And that's what we want to hold on to. But heaven is actually like the glass. And to God, heaven is what's real. And this liquid inside is completely malleable and created literally from the glass. They puff a bunch of air into themselves. That's not exactly right. But atoms are like 99% nothing but air. Okay, so if you think like whipped ice cream where it's 70% air and it's still, you eat it and it's like solid to your mouth. God's like, it really didn't take as much mass as you think. But anyway, so if you could take little pieces of yourself and put it inside other little pieces. I didn't actually understand that the straws were God consciousness too. At that point, I didn't understand that. But I understood this concept. If you could take little pieces of yourself, like little seeds, and stick them in an object and separate them from yourself, you could grow them separate from yourself. And they can each go and be different and have their own lives and all their experiences. And on this planet, you grow pens, and they look like this, markers, and on that planet, you grow little squiggly things like this, and you put them all together, and that makes a God consciousness. Okay, so you will always be what you will always be, and yet when you go into heaven, you will be so much more. Okay. Because it's all equations to God. All right. God thinks of it. I put 2 cups in the end of a life, I get 2 gallons out. I refine and purify and take out what I can keep. And then I can have more God consciousness to grow more seeds. It's like harvesting, and that was the opposite way. It was supposed to get this way. I want my hair on this side. Yeah. That's weird. My hand's doing the wrong thing. So early on, I would go and show up in heaven and ask questions like a 2-year-old or 6-year-old in the back seat going, when are we going to get there? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Except I was why, but why, but why, but why, but why? And some things they would explain to me over and over in different ways so that I could conceive different parts from different perspectives and try to have ways to understand that I comprehended in our limited human way is very much like an ant trying to comprehend a human. In the complexity and scope of some of the things that they were teaching me. But the thing is, I was looking at life completely differently. I wasn't looking from any dogmatic perspective. I was looking at it only from one point of view. I'm a light being in a body, and I fucking know it. I know that I am not this body. And that was one of the first things that I really comprehended and understood in order for me to start really moving into going into past lives was understanding that we are in the mortal temporal realm and that the bodies all die, but the light being goes on. And that was one of the first concepts I truly understood, was that there is a mortal part to all that you are that makes you the unique expression of yourself on this planet at this time. And there is the immortal part that moves through many lives and is actually many lives in one lifetime. Is why I write things like lifetimes and timelines, because literally in one timeline, it's wow, it makes my head hurt. You know, so God sees things completely different than you and I, but we can comprehend and understand the basics. We can understand everyone came from what's on the other side of the Big Bang. We can call it source or the quantum or heaven or home. They just call it home. I mean, I know we have all these fancy words for it. They're just like, it's where we live. Like, we don't. It's what you call home. It's where everything came from, everything goes back to. So, let's not get too fancy. Source. Some people are happier with something like source and thinking that heaven is separate. But the gods don't see us as separate. They literally don't. It's kind of another way to imagine it is a pregnant woman with a baby in her belly. That baby is its own baby. And yet that baby is never separate from the mother. So that's how the quantum sees the physical realm. We're never separate. They don't see, they see us like mini me's. There's 2 cups of me running around. Look at these girls, and that's me, and that's me, and that's me. It's like if you could take your toes and separate them from your body, they'd still be your toes. In a very real way, God does not see us as separate beings from himself. He sees us as just little pieces of themselves. I use the term he because everyone in the quantum is titled as your father. They are the being that gave the 2 cups to make you. And there's more than 1 million fathers with children on this planet. There are some of them that have a lot more than others. And, it's beautiful. I love looking at the quantum. I love looking at the earth from the quantum. I love talking about the quantum. It's my favorite subject. It's all I want to talk about all day long is God in heaven. The problem is nobody understands God in heaven like I do. They talk in equation, not English. They talk in pictures and images and feelings. That's how a lot of our communication was, and especially, for the first 3 years. I didn't get to the code. They told me all these stories, and I was like, how did you do it? Okay, so you separate a piece of yourself and turn it. I'm gonna hold up the glass again. Like, if I could take my arm off, we humans think in human terms, okay? But if I could take a piece of me and turn it into this glass, okay, but I'm not disconnected from it, I'm still connected to the glass. And then I can take another piece of me and put it inside the glass. I can take, if I'm a 30 cup God, we're going to keep these numbers easy for humans to understand because it's the comprehension we need. If I was a God that was 30 cups, I could take 20 cups of myself and turn 15 cups into the blender and run 5 cups of myself through the blender. And so I understood when they started, okay, and I did understand the concept. One of the sacred stories is called The Thought That Changed Heaven Forever. Okay, the thought that changed everything. And it makes me cry because it is such an intense moment. And so much has birthed from that one thought. So many more gods have been born. The quantum is 10 times what it was since that thought. But the thought was so simple. If I could separate a piece of myself from myself, I could grow me faster. Because all the heavens wanted to do all day long was to grow more of themselves and to make more heaven. In fact, the 2 laws in heaven are love and abed. You have to vibrate with every of your being, every thought, every vibration, every feeling, every part of you that you are in love or above. And you have to make more. You have to produce more than you intake. You have to have a greater, it's an equation. And the easiest way to explain it in English is you have to evolve. You have to have more output than you have intake, which you do just by being alive in heaven. You have that. But you have to not only produce enough to sustain yourself, you have to produce enough to grow yourself more and produce more so that more gods can be created to grow more. So you have to grow yourself and produce enough to help grow others and grow the quantum and grow the heavens. So again, it's an equation and it's a law. If you live in heaven, everyone has to do it. I mean, just to be in heaven is to do it. It's not like you have to work hard. It's just being in heaven. It's just like Okay. Um, and you know the rules before you get there. You sign. It's a, it's a thing. And you have to be a trained mind. You have to already prove. And, okay, we don't have to go through like what Jesus went through. We don't have to be whipped and beaten and sodomized and crucified to prove that we can be perfect. Okay. But you do have to reach a certain level of elevation and evolution. And Earth is a planet that can be a jumping off point to return. Okay. You don't just live one life and return, but there is no one on Earth that's only lived one life, period. Earth isn't even a beginner school. It's high school level. There's nobody here that hasn't lived on other planets, period. I don't care who you are. You've been on other planets. Okay. Just because I know you can't get onto Earth unless you've already met certain qualifications. And it's basically you have to be, junior high school level, even to get onto Earth. It's like a ride at Disney World that says you have to be so high. There are requirements to different planets and different playgrounds. Gods call these things the playgrounds for the children of heaven. That's literally what they call the physical. Well, it's an equation, but their whole language is equations, so I shouldn't have to keep saying that, but I will. Um, I say it's an equation. It's their language, so everything is equations. It's just how they speak. I think it's funny because I didn't understand that for a very, very, very long time. I talked to them in English and I would hear them back in English. I would, we would see movies and pictures and things. But at the same time, a lot of it was all telepathic. It wasn't me actually moving my mouth. And over time, I realized we were kind of, I, it was more just all pictures and less words and feelings and emotions and thoughts and just a higher level of transfer of information than words. Um, and especially in some of my like past lives and things, I could see things and you knew not just what the person was doing, but what they were thinking and what they were feeling and what they were experiencing and what they were worried about and um, how the experience felt to them and what they thought and what their intentions were. So it became a lot more 5D, 6D, 7D interactive communication and experiences. And if anyone knows Edison's brain story, he had a lot of extra connections and things in his brain. And I spent some time where I was intaking really good oils every day, detoxing, eating avocados, just making sure I got lots of good fat while I was doing meditating and um, building my brain muscles. Okay. And my mom created 6 geniuses out of 6 kids. And yeah, I know, some of that was genetics. But I really think that, she got some health books when we were kids, and we went from being sick all the time and having different problems, um, to eating much healthier. And I hated it, but it I really think it was part of the reason why we were all so smart and tested so high. And now on this planet, we're like filling the water with chemicals. So, and not a goody goody. It's not a goody goody. We can do better. Anyway, so that happens. The big part of this conversation is just to understand that I didn't start talking to heaven and God in equations. But the more and more I understood, and the more I sat there going, but why? 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 And they would explain things to me over and over and over again. Okay. The different stories. Okay. I understood the first thought, the thought that changed everything. And I'm like, but then how did that? And then but why? But then how? Okay, so wait, share that. And like the first universe, I've heard that story a dozen times from a half dozen different gods and seen it firsthand. The God that did it was not my God. And that was when I learned to not just talk to my God, but other gods and groups of gods. And, they find it so entertaining. They think I'm hilarious. What do they have to do all day? Watch they don't sleep. Heaven does nothing but watch us all day, okay? It's stupid. Because we all don't even know they exist. And I'm like, seriously, you guys sit there and watch. But they watch multiple planets on multiple timelines. I mean, their minds to truly understand, especially some of the old big gods that are like whales up there. Okay. It's a liquid reality. It's more like living underwater in the ocean. Okay, there's no paper. That's why I had such a hard time trying to understand their language and their God code and stuff, because it's not flat. Okay. And it's living. It's a living language. And they write shit is alive and active. So they have to know what they're doing. Okay. And I know there's people. I was one. I had my moment where I felt like, you mean I'm not going to be in heaven as myself? And I had a hard time with that for a minute. That I wasn't going to be me forever. And God just, he thinks it's funny. Because on one hand, would you want to stay a 5-year-old forever? No. We would want to grow up and be all we were meant to be. And at the same time, being a 5-year-old is beautiful when you're 5 years old and learning the basics and kindergarten and, um, you know, primary school and learning your alphabet and speaking and writing. It's a beautiful stage. It's a beautiful age. And there's nothing wrong with being 5 years old. But you don't want to be 5 years old forever. We want to grow, we want to evolve. And I know we think these human avatars are evolved, but they're really not that evolved in the universe. They're not my favorite flavor. I can remember other ones I like better. But I can also remember being human on other planets. This DNA type of growth is seeded throughout the universe as part of the code. Anyway, so there are things, and this is the very beginning of very first universe only grew algae. And that's when they began to understand more on how they had to write and evolve their codes and have pre information already there. Okay. But even the early universes could not produce a life as advanced as a human. They just couldn't make the rides big enough. So we're going to leave off on that. I'm going to tell you to check out, like, subscribe, hit the notification button because gosh only knows when I'm going to go live. And my alarm is ringing, so it's time for me to go. I love you. Hugs and kisses from heaven. Other daddies say hi. I don't care how beautiful his dress is or how high his heels are. If he's in the quantum, he's your father. Or if he's a dragon or a unicorn, he's still your father. Okay. Everyone in quantum gets called father. Yes, it's just a thing. Yes, because the earth is your mother. I love you, my brothers and sisters. Have a beautiful day dancing on this magical planet. I am getting ready to teach my 7 sacred stories in a course is upcoming in the next month. So look for more information on that. Subscribe to my live stream so you can start catching me live and asking me questions. I love you. Have a beautiful day.